Have you ever been scrolling on your phone and just stopped and wondered, how did it know I wanted to see that? It's like it's reading your mind, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the technology that makes all of that happen. We are talking about machine learning.
So let's start with something I think we've all been through. It's been a long day, you finally get to crash on the couch, and you fire up Netflix. And bam, right there on the home screen, the perfect movie. How does it do that? Seriously, how does it know what you're in the mood for? Sometimes even better than you do. I mean, think about it. You never sat down and filled out a big survey telling Netflix, okay, here are my top 5 favorite actors. Or, I'm really into comedies on Fridays, but by Sunday, I need a good documentary. You never told it any of that stuff. And yet, somehow, it gets you. Well, here's the secret. It's not some kind of magic trick. It's actually something way more fascinating. It's a computer that has literally been taught how to learn from your actions, to start recognizing your patterns, and basically to think a little bit like you. And that incredible ability is what brings us right to the heart of our explainer today. What in the world is machine learning? It's the answer to that whole Netflix mystery. So let's get a definition down. Machine learning, or ML for short, is all about letting computers learn patterns directly from data. And here's the kicker, the most important part, they can make decisions without a human programmer having to sit there and type out every single possible rule. And this right here really shows you the fundamental shift. You see, with traditional programming, you give the computer the rules, you give it the data, and it spits out an answer. But with machine learning, you completely flip that on its head. You give it examples and the final answers, and it figures out the rules all by itself. Okay, so that obviously raises a big question. Why did we even need to do that? Why invent this whole new way for computers to operate? Well, it turns out there are a lot of situations where just trying to write out all the rules, well, it isn't just hard. It's basically impossible. The simple truth is that some problems are just way too messy, too complex for any human or even a team of humans to write rules for. The real world isn't neat and tidy, and there are just way too many variables to keep track of. And here are some perfect examples. Just try to imagine writing a rule for every single possible spam email, or a rule to identify your best friend's face from any angle in any lighting with any expression. You can't. It's an impossible task. And that's exactly where we let the machine take over and figure it out for us. All right, so we get why we need it, but how does a machine actually do it? How does it learn? Let's walk through a super simple breakdown of the process. It really boils down to this simple 3-step dance. First, you just give it a ton of data, basically a whole lot of examples. Second, the machine sifts through all that data and starts to find patterns. And third, it uses those patterns it found to make predictions about new things it has never, ever seen before. So let's use a classic example, trying to predict house prices. Step 1, we just feed the computer a big table of data, just like this one. Notice, we're not telling it any formulas or rules. We're just showing it a bunch of examples of houses, their size, how many bedrooms they have, and what they eventually sold for. Now for step 2, the machine gets to work. It starts churning through all those examples, and it begins to connect the dots. It might notice, hey, it looks like bigger homes usually have a higher price. Or, it also seems like more bedrooms tends to mean a higher price too. It's finding the relationships on its own. And that leads us to the final and kind of magical step. We can now ask it about a brand new house, one it's never seen. And based on all those patterns it just discovered, it can make a really solid, educated guess about what that house should cost. And this is the point I really want to drive home. We never gave it a math equation. We never said price equals X times size plus Y times bedrooms. No, it learned the patterns and figured out the relationships all by itself, just by looking at the data. And this same process works for all kinds of crazy things. You want a computer to recognize a cat? Forget trying to write rules about whiskers and pointy ears. No, you just show it thousands and thousands of photos, each one labeled cat or not a cat. It will literally learn the visual essence of catness, and then it'll be able to spot a cat in a photo it's never seen before. It's pretty wild. Now, as you can probably guess, it's not always quite that simple. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. There are actually a few different ways that machines can learn, and it all depends on the kind of problem you're trying to solve. So let's quickly break down the 3 main types. First, you've got supervised learning. That's pretty much what we've been talking about, where you give the machine data that's all been neatly labeled. Think of it like learning with a teacher. This is what powers your email spam filter. Then there's unsupervised learning. Here, the data has no labels at all. The machine's job is to just dive in and find hidden structures on its own, like a detective. This is how your bank can spot weird transactions and flag potential fraud. And finally, you have reinforcement learning. This is all about trial and error. The machine gets rewarded for good actions and penalized for bad ones, kind of like teaching a dog a new trick. This is how an AI can master a super complex video game, or how a self-driving car learns to navigate a crazy intersection.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for you and your day-to-day life?
You know, if you walk away remembering just one thing, let it be this. At the end of the day, machine learning is just about teaching computers how to learn from examples. That's it. From those examples, they get really good at finding patterns, and then they can start making decisions all on their own. And here's the really cool part. This whole thing is constantly getting better. The more data we feed these systems, the more movies we watch, the more songs we listen to, the more photos we tag, the smarter they become. They're always learning, always improving, working quietly in the background to make our lives just a little bit easier and a little more seamless.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As these machines get better and better at learning, you really have to wonder, what's next? What part of our world, what human problem are they going to learn to solve for us next?